What's going on, y'all? Machiavelli Mills TV. So this is a message to anybody that still lives with their mother and their father in their 20s, even to the early 30s, right? Because I saw somebody was like, if you 20 to 30 years old, if you 25, somebody said if you 25 to 30 years old and you still living with your mama, you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be embarrassed because you should be out your mama's house by now. You should have figured out life. Let me tell y'all this, man. If you can live with your mother up until you're 30 years old, I suggest you do that. Save your money, stack. I'm not saying just live there and just kick your feet up and just enjoy the luxury of not paying no rent. But work, save your money, stack. Please do that. Save up. Because it's hard out here in this world, man. It's hard out here. Rent going up higher and higher. Some people car notes high. Gas be high. Groceries are super expensive to where people wish they had food stamps. Y'all, please, if you got the luxury to live with your mother, do that. Don't let nobody make you feel bad about that, because a lot of people wish they could live with their parents still. Some people have harsh parents who really don't properly love them and just push them out into the world to fend for themselves and to swim on their own with really no life raft. Some parents do that to their children. But if you got a parent who really love you and say, you can live, baby, you can come live with me, stack your money, save up so you can get you a nice spot and so you could be A-okay when you move on your own, do that, man. Live with your mother and appreciate that luxury, man, because a lot of people out here are struggling. You got a lot of people in terrible relationships and staying in those relationships because they need somebody to split the rent with, okay? You got people living with people they can't stand, got roommates that they hate, they despise in order to be able to pay rent and to be out of their mama's house. So y'all, if you can live with your mother, don't let nobody down talk you or make you feel bad about that. I wish I lived with my mother at times with all these bills that I got, all this stuff I got to pay for. I wish I lived with my mom at sometimes, right? So don't let nobody make you feel bad about that at all, man. A lot of people wish they could do that. You know what I mean? A lot of people wish they could go home and could could depend on their parent just to stay. You know what I mean? You could paying a little rent here and there, but stacking up for the most part with most of their check. A lot of people really wish they could do that, y'all. But that's not a reality for some people, you know. But if you got that as your reality, do that, man. Ain't nothing wrong with staying with your mother through your 20s and stuff like that. A lot of other cultures do it. Especially, I'm talking to black people specifically, because a lot of times we get shamed into thinking that we are that we're failures if you live with your parents in your 20s and stuff. You're a failure, or you're not worth much, or or you really don't got life figured out. Not life figured out, but yeah, you're a failure. You should be embarrassed. You're a loser or whatever if you live with your mama. Man, listen. A lot of other cultures do it all the time. All the time. I told y'all, man. My boy Melvin live out in Hawaii. He's seeing a lot of Hawaiian people, man. They kids be 20-something, 30 years old, still staying in their house until they stack up and get them their own house or get their own spot, their own house for them to live. They allow them to stay and stack, and they stack up and they be financially set. A lot of times, our community, we deal with a lot of generational trauma. You got a lot of our grandparents were put out by their parents. A lot of our parents were put out by their parents, etc. And people think repeating that cycle makes you strong, makes you tough, makes you be able to handle the world, man. It makes a person hardened from all the things they had to do with no lifeline from their parents. All the things they had to endure. You got people out here really doing all types of this. You got people out here committing crimes, resorting to fraud, all type of stuff in order to stay afloat. You know what I'm saying? You got people out here doing some of the craziest stuff you can imagine in order to stay afloat, in order to be okay out here. You know what I mean? You got the people doing some of the wildest things you could imagine just to be all right. So, if you got that safety net with your parents, man, that's a blessing. That's a blessing, and it always should be looked at that. It shouldn't be looked at as a burden or as something that you should be ashamed of. At all, man. At all. A lot of people wish they could go home, but they can't because of, the generational trauma that was passed through their grandparents down to their mama, and their mama passed it to them. I know a lot of people, several people who got put out the house at 18 years old or whatever, and the 18-year-old was working, and the mama put him out. You grown. You leave my house. You grown. Bye. One of my coworkers, man, when I was working, my coworker told me, I asked him, why did he go to the Navy? And he told me, well, because my dad told me when I graduated high school, hey, you 18, you got to get out my house. You got to get out my house. He said, I didn't have nowhere to go. So I went the military route because I knew I could get somewhere to stay and all of that. You know what I mean? Through that, I knew that I could get me some money. I knew if I, wanted to go to school, I can go to school for free. He said, so I went to the military because I had no other option. My dad was an a-hole. And he was not kind to me. And he's still not kind to this day. And their relationship is probably, it sounds like, I hope not, but it sounds permanently fractured from his father just putting him out of the house. Not because he was a bad kid, not because he didn't graduate from school or nothing. He graduated from high school, all of that, wasn't no bad kid, but his dad told him, are you 18? Get out of my house. And his dad learned that from his father, and his mother, putting them out in the world to fend for themselves. And I always caution people, man, when you do that to your kids and you put them out for no good cause, but because they 18 ain't grown. You can't even legally, brother, it's a lot of stuff you can't even legally do till you're 21. Till you're 21, including drinking and including going to the damn casino. All of that, man. You cannot do that until you're 21 years old. So 18 ain't grown. It's not grown enough. It's not grown for real. You just learning out. You just really, responsibility is just about to hit you in the face. But you 18, you grown, bye, man, listen. Doing it to your children will have them out here wilding. I done seen girls resort to the most things that a lot of parents are fearful of their daughters doing because their mamas put them out, right? You see girls doing more than just OnlyFans videos of themselves. They start doing other things, and it gets worse and it gets crazy. So don't ever let nobody make fun of y'all for living with your mama, man, or living with your parents in general, man. You can live with your parents. Listen, man, appreciate that. I ain't saying be no slob, just sit around, lounge around. You work, help out around the house. But if you can stack, man, do it. Stack. And you know what I mean? And stack till you're good. And you can have your own setup and all of that, man. But people out here are really trying to shame people. And I think people be shaming folks for these just because it's the content creation and it drives up revenue when you get all these different interactions on social media when you say wild, outlandish things. But I do know people who, over the years, black folks who have condemned other black people for living in their parents' house at 25 to 30 years old, when a lot of people who I know are very successful live with their parents up until they was 30, up until they was 28, 29, sometimes 32, 33, until they got themselves all the way situated and they bought themselves a house. And then, they were able to do what they want to do and all of that, man. So, yeah, man, everybody's circumstances in life, they're different. And we're living in different times now. Stuff is way more expensive. All these streaming services, cable, phone bill, all of this stuff is crazy out here. Crazy expensive. I told y'all, I always say this, people in grocery stores literally window shopping because stuff is too expensive. So I ain't clowning nobody that live with their parents. Do it and stack if you can.